I want to tell you the story of ROI, the Millionaire Summit. I actually want to give you the behind the scenes, how much money I made or lost, and all of the dirty details. Selling $1 million worth of tickets the first year of your conference is absolutely banana cakes. We're talking about how to scale a business. We're sharing our success secrets. Like, there's so much power in this room, and we should have diversity in this room. Let's showcase every identity so that the audience can see, no matter what your story is, no matter what your identity, you are represented here. Let me tell you about the part that wasn't awesome. I had plenty of people tell me not to do it, and I decided I was going to do it anyway.
You want to make more money? You are in the right place. Welcome to the Hello 7 podcast. That's 7 as in 7 figures. I'm your host, Rachel Rodgers.
Hello, and welcome back to the Hello 7 podcast. I'm so delighted to be here with you. Today is another solo episode, and we've got story time. ROI, the Millionaire Summit, is back for the third time. It's happening in January 2025 for entrepreneurs that are looking to grow a 7-figure business and beyond. We'll have amazing speakers, incredible networking, lots of connection, community, and fun, and actionable steps that you can take to get a return on your investment in this amazing event. It's all happening January 15th through the 17th in Orange County, California, right outside of LA, so easy to fly to. And what's really special about this year is that we are including luxury accommodations with your ticket. That's right, you don't have to pay an extra fee for a hotel room. It's all included in your ticket. But these rooms will sell out and tickets are going fast. And the price goes up every week. So you will be rewarded for taking quick action. So make sure you go to hello7.co/ROI to get your ticket now. I want to tell you the story of ROI, the Millionaire Summit. This is my annual conference that I host every year in January. I'm doing the third one this January 2025, and you should definitely come. But this episode is not about that. I actually want to give you the behind the scenes for this offer, this conference that I chose to do, why I decided to do it, what the business model has looked like, how much money I made or lost, and all of the dirty details about running a conference and what it looks like. If you've ever wanted to do a really big project, whether it's a conference, a documentary, something else, I'm going to give you some of the mindset that I had to have to go into this and talk about where are we at now with this event and how do I feel 3 years later about taking on such a big undertaking, okay? So this episode is gonna be very juicy. I know y'all love the gossip. I know y'all are nosy. So I'm gonna give you all the tea, okay? So let's actually begin at the very beginning. ROI, the Millionaire Summit. What made me create this thing? I actually created it back in, I wanna say it was 2020 or 2021, somewhere in there. It was around the time that the club was booming. That's my membership community. And my book, We Should All Be Millionaires, had just come out. And somewhere in that time frame, I had this idea of doing an event, a large conference. And the reason why goes back even further than that. Many, many years ago, like this was probably like 2016 or something like that, I went to a very selective conference for entrepreneurs. This was for entrepreneurs who are making at least $1 million or more. I had the smallest business in the room. Some of the entrepreneurs in the room were doing $100 million a year, and it was extremely exclusive. And it was actually even hard to get into that conference. And I had a mentor who had recommended me and referred me to this community, and that's how I got to be at this event. And I was so excited to be there. I was also really nervous, but I really wanted to learn from people who were doing a lot more than I was. And I wanted to see how were they doing it, right? Like what was their secret? And I wanted to network and meet other entrepreneurs who know what it's like to be building a large business. And so I went there all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and a little bit nervous because I only knew like 1 or 2 people. And got in the room and people were pretty friendly, actually. Not everybody, but a lot of people were. But when I got in the room, I was really shocked because literally there was zero diversity. And I had no idea going into it that that's what it was going to be. So it was almost exclusively white men. There were a handful of women, and it felt very much, even the vibe of the conference felt like, well, we added women because we had to, because we were getting crap about it. So we decided to invite a couple women. And so there were some women entrepreneurs in the room, but not many. And almost no one in the room was a person of color. Right. So not only was I the only Black woman in the room, I was like one of like 3 people of color in the entire room. So even the men, right, like there might have been like 1 or 2 Asian men, and like the diversity was so whack. And I was disappointed. And there was another woman who was at that event, and she's just powerhouse, very vocal. And she knew some of the people there and the organizers a lot better than I did. And she said, where are all the women? Where are all the people of color? Why is this event so homogenous? Like when we're having events like this, where we're talking about how to scale a business, we're sharing our success secrets, like there's so much power in this room, and we should have diversity in this room so that we can spread that power to different communities. And the organizers didn't really care. In fact, they didn't appreciate her pointing out that there were very little women in the room. And I want to point out that this was a white woman, too, who was advocating for not only more women, but people of color to be in the room. And so she was using her privilege, right, to say, like, hey, I'm going to make some noise. I felt lucky to be there. So I was like, I don't love that we don't have diversity, and I'm going to put it in the survey, but I'm not going to make a lot of noise because I feel privileged to even be here, And so that was sort of the vibe of it. And the organizers didn't really care what she was talking about. They didn't really care about making it more diverse. As you can see, right, from the room that we were in, it wasn't a priority for them. And then I went the following year again, and I got some really good information. But again, very, very few women or people of color in year 2. And I was thinking like, okay, they would have learned from last year. They'll add more diversity. They even asked people in the community to recommend other people. And I recommended a bunch of Black women. I recommended a bunch of people of color that are amazing entrepreneurs that should definitely be in this room and have so much to contribute to this room. And none of them were invited. Okay. And so then we go back for year 2 and it's the same thing. Is it slightly better? Yes. Like maybe 1% better, which is like, okay, I appreciate progress. I celebrate progress, but I was frustrated because I felt like there were so many amazing entrepreneurs out there that just get ignored, right? Like when you see the Forbes list of 30 under 30 or whatever list it is these days, right? All of those lists, every time you see them, there's a token Black person, there's a token person of color, there's a token Asian person, right? There's 3 women, and it's still to this day, and it's sad and it's pathetic at this point, right? It's not because you can't find them, it's because you are ignoring them, right? It's because they're not in your network. You don't even know these people, and that's why you can't invite them to events, because you don't actually have any friends of color or women who are your friends in real life, right? Like that's what the problem is. And I've written a whole article about this, so I'll link it in the show notes. We're not going to go all the way into that, but that's what after I left year 2, I was like, I can never give my money to this event again because I just can't. Like we had the conversation again, and this time I was a lot more vocal because now I've been part of the community for a year. And I said also, and there was like one other Black woman there this time. And there were like a handful of people, but again, very, very little progress. And it wasn't so much that, but it was more so that the organizers didn't seem to care. They didn't care that there were very few women. They didn't care that there were very few people of color. And I'm just talking about the audience, never mind the speakers. The speakers were like 100%. And here's the thing, too. Some of the speakers, like there were more accomplished women sitting in the audience than the men who were teaching the classes as the speakers. And I'm like, why didn't you have this person teach this? Like they're actually better than this guy you got to teach, right? So it's like, why do we have so few people of color and women of color and women in general speaking as well? And so I'm just like, this is not the kind of place I want to learn. Like, was there amazing information? Yes, but I also got sexually harassed by a guy there. There was just rudeness and dealing with sexist comments, racist comments. And I was just like, I don't need to be in this space, right? This is not a space for me to be fed. I used to have the philosophy that I have to take one for the team, that I have to put myself in these rooms so I can get this information and bring it back to these communities, right? To my community. And now I no longer have that philosophy. Now I'm like, I want to go where I'm loved. I want to go where I'm supported. I want to go where my identity is acknowledged, right? I want to go where my accomplishments are acknowledged. So that's how I feel now. But then that's why I was going. And that's not the only event, but it was the catalyst for me. Then I went to other events and I had this gripe everywhere I went, right? Very few speakers that were diverse, that were people of color, that were queer people. It's like zero representation whatsoever. And or so little that it just feels like we threw in a black guy, just to shut y'all up, right? Like that's what it feels like. And I decided I was done with that. And I also was done complaining about it because I complained. I was vocal to the organizers of these different events. I talked about it online. I wrote about it. I wrote about how to create more diversity. I actually had, from that community, there were a lot of people who organized events and organized group coaching and all kinds of things. And a lot of the white men in that community would DM me and say, what can I do? Because I do care actually about diversity and I do want more diversity in my community. So what can I do? And I would work with them one-on-one and have conversations with them and help them bring more diversity to their audience because they care and they want to. And they're willing to do the work of like not only bringing them in, but making this a safe space for the people that you are inviting in, right? And so I did that. I did all those things, but I was still pissed that there wasn't a space for us. My vision for what a conference would be like, yes, there's white guys on the stage, and there's women, and there's people of color, and there's queer people, and there's people with disabilities, right? Like all of us are out here building businesses and being successful. Let's showcase every identity so that the audience can see no matter what your story is, no matter where you come from, no matter what your industry, no matter what your identity, you are represented here, right? And there's somebody like you, there's a non-binary entrepreneur who's crushing it right now that you can learn from, who's on this stage, who's there to inspire you, right? Or there's a person with a disability that is building a successful business, right? And they're going to teach you how they did it. Like that is real representation, and it's so powerful and it's so impactful and it's so important. And I had to decide, how important was it? Was I going to be the kind of person that continued to gripe and bitch and moan about what didn't exist and about what these other people weren't doing? Or was I going to step it up myself and decide that I was going to solve this problem? And if you've ever been there at this point where you're just like, I'm tired of hearing myself complain about the same thing, like maybe it's time for you to ask yourself, is it time for me to be the one that solves this problem? Because, I heard Michelle Obama gave a speech recently and she said, do something. Don't just sit on the sidelines, right? I remember when Barack Obama said, don't boo, vote, right? It's like, it's both the same idea. Like we can sit and complain all day about what's going on in the world, but guess what? We are the world. We are people, right? Oh, somebody should solve this. We are somebody, right? So we can decide to be the ones that's going to step our game up and take on the challenge to solve this problem. And you don't have to do it alone. You can get support. Just know that you can be that person, right? It is possible for you to do it. If you just decide that it's important enough, you'll find a way to make it happen. And that's basically what I did. So I wish I could tell you that as soon as I thought about this for a while, I was trying to help in different ways, finally decided I was frustrated enough to do it myself, that I immediately took action. I did not. Of course, I sat on this idea like we all do, right? If you have a really great idea, what's the next thing you do? You think about it for the next 3 to 5 years, right? If you have a really amazing idea, what you're gonna do is think about it for the next 3 to 5 years and completely procrastinate, which is exactly what I did. So it took me some time to get to the place where I was like, okay, let's do this. But after the pandemic and during the pandemic, I was like, we have this incredible community online. When the world is back open, it's time for this conference to happen. And so we spent time during the pandemic, we spent time planning this. And it was over a year that we spent planning the very first ROI the Millionaire Summit. The very first one was January 2023. And I spent all of 2022 and then a little bit more planning that event. And it was super successful and incredible and amazing and everything that I ever wanted. I remember sitting in the audience and I felt like, oh, multiple people with visible disabilities who were on stage. And they weren't teaching about how to be an entrepreneur with disabilities, because that's the other thing too, right? If we're a person of color, if we're a diverse person, it's like, okay, speak on DEI. Okay, we have other expertise besides DEI, all right? So they were speaking on believing in yourself, and they were speaking on how to scale a business, right? And they were speaking on millionaire mindset, just like other entrepreneurs. We had a non-binary entrepreneur on stage. We had plenty of queer representation on stage. We had Black women. We had women from the Middle East. We had Asian women. We had people from all different backgrounds. We had men in the room as well, right? And men on stage. So, but it was mostly women and people of color. So I said, let's flip this on its head. Instead of having an event where almost everyone is a cis straight white man, and there's like a handful, we'll give a little sprinkling of diversity. I said, let's do the opposite, actually. Let's make it so that every slot on stage is a diverse person. And not just one group. It's not just a conference for disabled entrepreneurs. It's not just a conference for queer entrepreneurs. It's not just a conference for Black entrepreneurs. It's a conference for all of us together, right? Latina and Asian and, every different background, right? Native American, Caribbean, right? Like whatever your ethnicity, background, race, like we want you to be there, and we want your identity celebrated. We want you on stage. We want, like our promise was, if you come to ROI, you will see somebody who looks like you and who shares your story and identity on stage. Right? Without question. You are not going to be like me, how I was at that conference where I was the only Black woman in the room. And then there was no women or Black people or people of color on the stage. So there was nobody on the stage who shared my identity, right? I wanted the opposite of that. And that's what we built. That's what ROI, the Millionaire Summit is. And that is the purpose behind it. That's why I created it. It's not that do we need another conference? I don't know. But you know what we do need? We need more diversity. And we need more representation. And we need to highlight all of these incredible entrepreneurs out here who are building businesses and doing the damn thing with a diverse identity, right? And with the challenges that can come with that in a country like the US, And we also have international entrepreneurs and international speakers that were in the room as well. And it was absolutely incredible. I mean, it was 3 days of absolute magic. I remember the very first night, I'm sitting there like having my Oprah moment, right? Like feeling like I'm Oprah and I've brought all these amazing people together and I'm just a proud mama. But at the end of the first night, now we open with speakers from our community. So these are not like well-known speakers. These are not people who are doing the circuit. These are entrepreneurs who have a story to share. And we vet them and we call it Schmilly Talks. That's our version of like TED Talks. It's people from our community. And so at the end of Schmilly Talks, now we haven't even gotten to all of the big name speakers yet. Just that first night at the end of Schmilly Talks, people were like, I got my money's worth. I could go home right now and be like, I feel transformed. Like the room was electric, the energy, because we were just so happy to be outside and be outside together, right? And to be at a place where we felt seen and celebrated and heard, and our story is represented and our struggles are represented, and the specific things that we need to do to grow our businesses despite those struggles, are being taught to us, So it was incredible. We had amazing speakers. We had the best time. We had so much fun. We had the dance party of all dance parties, and it was awesome. Okay, but let me tell you about the part that wasn't awesome.
I have a fun announcement. We recently surpassed 1.2 million views on our YouTube channel. So thank you for tuning in, for pressing play, for sharing episodes, for subscribing. We appreciate you. So do us a favor and subscribe right now to this channel, and then please share it with your friends as well.
How much do you think this event cost? How much do you think ROI, the Millionaire Summit, cost? Whatever that number is, you probably need to times it by a lot. Because the first ROI, the Millionaire Summit in 2023, if I have my numbers correctly, was about $1.7 million. That's how much it cost me to do that event. Now, that was a year that my business was making somewhere around 10 to 12 million, right? It's an 8-figure business and we're low 8 figures, like that's where we were at the time. So 1.7 million is damn near 20% of my total revenue. That's before I pay anybody else, before I take care of my team, right? Before I pay for all the expenses that it takes to run this business, like almost $2 million out the door. just from one event, okay? So, and I really had no idea. I was so naive as I was doing this, and I just had such a vision, and I refused to depart from my vision. So I was just like, we're doing it, and we're gonna figure it out. And we sold $1 million worth of tickets to ROI, the Millionaire Summit. We had not a single sponsor. No one put a dollar in but me. You know who funded it? My bank account, okay? And Hello7's bank account. That's who funded this event. And you know, I didn't know because you're paying things, and we've got a budget, and we had an incredible partner, Black-owned company that is an amazing experience design and event company. So they were our partners in this, and they were very organized, and we had like budgets and all the things. And it's a moving target, like as you're booking speakers and travel and food and goodie bags and, you know, the party and just, you know, getting people to load in things and getting people to take them out. Security. Do you know that you actually have to have an ambulance and a paramedic on site once you have a certain number of people in a space? So, you know, we had 700 people come to that first event. And so we had to have paramedics present at all times just in case something happened. And there were emergencies that happened. I mean, luckily nothing too drastic, but somebody got really terrible news. And you know what? We had a fund to put her on a plane and fly her home and take care of her along the way. Like, that's the kind of conference we wanted to have. We had a conference where we had someone who was attending who is a queer Black woman who has PTSD. She's a veteran. And it's hard for her she really wanted to be at the event, but it's hard for her to be in big conference spaces. And so what helps is for her to be walked through, and she needed extra accommodation. And we were able to accommodate her, right? Because that's the kind of event I wanted to run. And it felt like the right thing to do. But let me tell you, baby, it was expensive, okay? Very expensive. Now, this event was really like a community event. I just wanted to bring our people together and just have an incredible time. And I had a friend say to me, "What are you selling at this event?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And they were like, "What are you selling at this event? What's the sales pitch?" And I was like, there isn't one. I just was, and I mean, I'm a seasoned entrepreneur. I know how this works. And I know that at live events, we often will sell something, you'll pitch something, you'll launch something new. And I didn't plan on doing that because to me, the event was the product. And I was just so excited to bring my people together, and my business was thriving from our membership. And so I wasn't really thinking about that. I was just trying to get this event pulled together and make it as special as possible. And, we got closer and closer, and it was like, let's say it was like December 2022, and we're looking at the latest budget and update on what we've spent, and it was very sobering. And it was like, girl, so that we lose as little money as possible, you need to find something to sell. Okay. And I'm like, most of the people in the room are club members, right? Like, we don't really have much to sell. And so I had to think about, like, what would I want to sell? You know, what would I want to be a part of this? And something that I had been working on for some time and like in the background, but I didn't have a timeline on it. You know, it's like one of those projects that you're tinkering with, but you're not ready to necessarily share it with the world yet for your own reasons. A lot of times we're just playing small. Trust me, I do it too. And so the coach certification, the Hello7 coach certification, was something that I had been working on, that I had been pulling pieces together for, that I've been thinking about and tinkering with for a while, quite some time, like a couple years. And so I was like, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to put the coach certification out there and get her done. Like, let's announce it. Let's launch it there. And it was almost out of necessity so that we would not lose as much money as we were finna lose. Okay. Because we were about to, like, the gap between the ticket sales, which selling $1 million worth of tickets the first year of your conference is absolutely banana cakes. Like, that is to be celebrated. That is exceptional. It is incredible, the community support we had for this event. I am so thrilled, right? And it still wasn't enough to cover the cost of this incredible experience. And so we launched the coach certification from the stage at ROI. It was a last minute decision. I mean, we didn't even have the team in place to have sales conversations. Like, we just really threw it together last minute in terms of the selling, right? The product had been worked on for quite some time, but we weren't ready to launch it yet. And we kind of were forced to launch it sooner. And of course, we gave ourselves some runway. So the program actually didn't start until April of that year. So we still had 3 months after the event to keep working on it and get it to final form to launch it. To deliver it. But at ROI, we announced this coach certification. And I will never forget, hundreds of people came forward and said, I'm in. And it was just this like tears. It was just this beautiful, beautiful moment. And thank God, right? And of course, the coach certification itself costs a lot of money because I have a big team. There's a lot to deliver, right? It's basically college, It's like coach college is what our coach certification is. It is very in-depth. We had somebody who did the program and they were like, I have a PhD and I feel like my PhD program was not as in-depth as this certification. There were exams every week. Anyway, so I digress. So we were technically ROI in and of itself the first year, we lost $700,000. But we were able to launch a product, the coach certification, that helped to make up for some of that shortfall. And of course, that has its own expenses. So sometimes that alone, like I prefer that every product standing on its own is successful, is profitable, right, is functional. And that is not the case for ROI in 2023, the first year. Okay, so that's year one. Let's talk about year two. Did it get better? I have to tell you, even after year one, I had multiple people say, maybe we should sit this one out. Do we need to do this again? That was fun. That was great. It doesn't need to be an annual thing. And I was like, who are you talking to? Of course it needs to be an annual thing. And it just was, we were still recovering from the expense of the first year of ROI. And so it was like, we're still sort of paying off some of the bills from last year's ROI, and we're already starting to take on bills for next year's ROI, right? And so we really had to ask ourselves, are we going to commit to this again? And I had plenty of people tell me not to do it. And I decided I was going to do it anyway. And maybe I'm stubborn, but I also know that with a conference like this, you're playing the long game, right? It is not going to be profitable on day one. Sometimes you are going to take on a big project that's really important to you, that's going to create a lot of change in the world, and it is not going to be profitable and is not going to be palatable in 5 minutes, right? Sometimes it's years of work before you get the result, and then the result can be absolutely exceptional. So let this be your signal. Like if you're ready to commit to a long-term solution, right? A long-term offer, a long-term problem that you want to solve, like sometimes that means delayed gratification so that you can build the thing that you want to build, okay? Now, like the goal is basically just to not go out of business and not have to file for bankruptcy on the back of this very expensive event, okay? So that was year one. Year two was ROI 2024, which just passed. So now we're smarter, we're wiser, we've learned a lot from year one. And so now we gotta tighten it up, right? We gotta tighten up the budget. We cannot be spending absurd amounts of money. Like our goal for year two was like, let's see if we can do this event, still make it just as amazing and break even, right? We don't need to make a profit. Let's see if we can just break even on the event. And so we were working towards that. And I'm telling you, there were last minute conversations where like cut the LED stage at the last minute, which I was devastated by, right? Because it was so stunning the first year. The LED stage, to give y'all just a sampling of what these things cost, was $100,000 just for the stage, okay? So it is really, really pricey. And we're not even getting into all of the paid speakers, et cetera. Okay, so year two. About what year two cost. So year two, we were very demure. We were very cutesy. Okay, we like tightened it up, but we still delivered an incredible experience. We had the amazing Tabitha Brown as our keynote. Oh my God, that conversation to this day. I mean, she basically coached me on stage. It was exceptional, and it is because of like speaker rules, and she's got CAA representation. Like, we cannot share that conversation. And I'm so sorry you missed it. And you really should not miss the next one, okay? Because sometimes part of what's happening at ROI is I'm curating an experience. So even if you feel like you've seen these speakers before, you have not seen them the way you're gonna see them at ROI, because I have specific questions for them. I know exactly what our audience needs. I know what you're struggling with as an entrepreneur and business owner. And like Tabitha was sharing, the structure of her business and who's on her team and how does she accomplish all the things that she's accomplished and how has she launched so many products. She was breaking it down for us. She's not sharing this at her speaking gigs, right? Like she's sharing her expertise, she's sharing her incredible story, but she's not really getting down and dirty with the numbers. And she really did that for us at ROI. She was so incredibly generous and kind. And so you don't want to miss those incredible moments because you're going to see the speakers like you've never seen them before, where they really share the behind the scenes of how they got got there and what their business actually looks like and who's on their team. I mean, I did some hiring. Listen, I was taking notes for myself. She really, really inspired me. So that's just one sampling. But okay, so ROI 2022. Did we do better? We did. We brought the budget down to 1.3 million. And I'm telling you what, I felt every single one of those cuts. It was hard to cut all of those things. And so we did the event. It was beautiful. And I'm gonna be honest. Some of the feedback, one person in particular, there was not a lot of this feedback, but one person said, this year's ROI was incredible. It was just as good as last year's, except it felt like ROI on a budget. And I was like, girl, that's because it was ROI on a budget. You are correct. ROI on a budget is exactly what it was. So year 2, we had to tighten it up and tighten up the budget. We still delivered an exceptional experience. And we like really poured into the things that we knew delivered an ROI for our customers and like cut down some of the other things that were just kind of special and fancy, but not necessary to deliver an incredible experience. And so that was that year. And so now it's time for year 3. And we are planning actively ROI 2025. It's happening January 15th through the 17th in Newport Beach, California. And so what have I done? I made some big decisions this year, right? Because again, after 2 years, we've learned so much. And so my goal for this year is to like, and did we break even last year? No, we got very close though. So we always sell a huge amount of tickets. It's not that. We just don't have sponsors. And trust me, we've tried. We've put a lot of work into getting sponsors. It's very hard to do for a diverse conference. I wonder why. So there were some challenges there. I do believe we will get sponsors eventually, but right now we're just funding this thing on our own. And so we had a tighter budget. Like we made some smart decisions, but I decided this year, again, everybody was like, are you sure you're going to do it? Let's wait 2 years before we do it again. There was just so much conversation from advisors and friends and team members of mine. And I said, we're doing this and I'm committed. Like I'm committed to making this happen. And I know if I'm consistent and show up every year with this event, it is going to grow. It is going to be successful. So this year, my goal is to do it again, definitely break even, but make a profit. And I don't care if the profit is 5 cents. I'm just at this point wanting to prove the concept. And I think it's true for a live event and a conference like this that sometimes it's not until year 3 that you actually start to break even or you actually start to make a profit. So this has been 100% a labor of love and it has cost me. Trust me, it has cost me. But I'm still committed and I'm glad I did it. And I know it's been transformational for people. The reels, the feedback that we get, the surveys that we send. I mean, we sent a survey to ROI attendees and 98% of them said, I will be back next year. That's how exceptional it is to be in a room of diverse people and see diverse people on stage and also get the best business advice on the market, right? Like the best, we're not skimping anything, right? You have the most exceptional entrepreneurs on stage teaching you. And we have breakouts where we're really breaking down, how do you scale a business? How do you build the operations for this business? How do you manage your team? What are the most profitable offers right now? What marketing strategies are working right now? Do you need a publicist? Here's a publicist who's representing like what they could do for your business. We have a speaking agent coming, right? Literary agents in the room, like just so many exceptional people, investors in the room, having a whole session about what they're looking for in businesses that they invest in. So, and how to solve the, we need capital problem. I mean, everything, selling, like we've got it all, truly. All right, so for year 3, ROI 2025, again, it's coming up. And so one of the things that I did to tighten up costs, we had an incredible partner who worked with us for 2 years on this event, and we decided to bring it in-house. So we are doing a lot of the planning ourselves at Hello 7. We have the team to do that. We've actually reworked the back end of our business to have a larger team that focuses only on this event all year long. This is their number one priority. And so I think that's gonna bring it to the next level. The other thing we did was we brought it back to the States. So ROI the Millionaire Summit was in San Juan, Puerto Rico 2 years in a row. I wanted it to feel like a vacation. I wanted it to be somewhere warm and special. I wanted it to be in a diverse location. And like San Juan just made sense. We brought so much business to Puerto Rico, and that was important to me. We had an incredible nonprofit partner that we got to really invest in. You'll hear more about that in a later episode. So it was great. And I'm so proud that we did that. But if we want this conference to survive, we had to bring it back to the States to make it easier for people to make it so that some people could drive to this event, like more people could drive to this event, to bring it to a place where a lot of the speakers were traveling from. We found that so many of our speakers were traveling from LA, which was really pricey. And so by bringing it to their hometown, it makes it easier to book speakers. And the other thing was we are able to do it at a property where we can include accommodations. So now for the same price that ROI was in 2023 and 2024, your ticket now includes your hotel room, a beautiful luxe hotel room at a stunning, fabulous 4-star resort. It's incredible. And it's beachfront and it's going to be stunning. And so you get to stay on site where the conference is happening, hang out, do all the networking. We know how important those dinners are, those lunches, those conversations in the hallways, et cetera, those conversations in the pool with a Mai Tai, right? And so now it feels really like a retreat and your accommodations included in your ticket. That's so special to me so that you don't feel like you're being nickeled and dimed and all you have to do is get yourself there. And if you live in drivable distance, you can just drive, right? So we're really excited about this year and those key changes that we've made to make it more affordable for our customer, to make it easier for our speakers, and to make it easier for us as a company so that we don't go out of business as we grow this event. And so it's really a win-win-win scenario. And I love that. Like in business, I'm always after the win-win-win. I want everybody involved to win. And I think that is so true for ROI. What is my overall goal with ROI? Like what's the end of this? My goal is to grow this conference, at least in the next 4 years, to 5,000 attendees. Okay, so I want to grow this conference to 5,000 attendees. And I'm thinking of potentially doing other locations internationally. Like maybe there's an ROI in Europe. Maybe there's an ROI in Australia. Maybe there's an ROI in West Africa, right? Like that is exciting to me, like the movement that is being created when we help people to see what are the exact moves they need to make to become a millionaire, to get that return on their investment, to get the knowledge, have the network, all of that. So I'm really excited to continue to grow this thing. And I'm really proud of myself for sticking with it, even when it was hard. I'm proud of myself for sticking with it, even when everybody was telling me not to do it. And I'm really proud of all the incredible transformations and stories that have come out of this. There are people that got an investor from it. There are people that got a huge client from it. There are people that got partnerships that made them tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And definitely tons of clients, tons of knowledge, tons of referral partners. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So, and this year will be absolutely no different. And we are going to be announcing the keynote for this year very soon. So if you want to come to ROI, I hope you do. I hope you feel like this is something that is mission driven, that you can support. Not only can you support this and support this community that we're building and this event that we're building, but you can also get your ROI, right? Make sure you're getting a return on the investment that you are making in your ticket. And yes, it's not a cheap ticket. We do have payment plans and your accommodations are included. In the future, we hope to have sponsors and then be able to drive down the ticket price. But right now, as you can see, right, even with these ticket prices, we can't break even, right? Or at least we couldn't in the last 2 years. I think some of the changes that we've made and getting the word out more. So here's my ask of you. My ask is go to hello7.co/ROI, check out the event, see all of the details, see the kinds of sessions that we're doing and the speakers that we're going to be having and the past speakers we've had. We'll be announcing more and more speakers over the coming weeks. My ask is that you consider joining. I hope that you will buy a ticket, right? We have a couple ticket levels. So we have the Business Bestie. You can buy a ticket for you and your friend and have a shared room. You could buy a ticket just for yourself. Or you could get the Golden Mastermind ticket, which includes a mastermind day with me and VIP seating and networking with the speakers and so many great things, author signings, etc. It's going to be good. Trust me. All my Goldens are always thrilled that they bought the Golden Mastermind ticket. So I want to encourage you to buy a ticket to ROI and support this event, because if we want to have more events like this, we have to support them when they're made available. So if you don't support this event and we don't have people out here supporting it, I can't do this alone. It's not possible. My team and I can't do this alone. So we need your help. If you cannot come or if it's not the right fit for you, will you please tell someone about it? Will you please post about it on your social media page? Will you do a video about it? Will you send an email about it? If you have attended, write a review about it, share your experiences, and just spread the message about this event. Because if we want more events like this to succeed, then we got to support the ones that we have, right? It's just like we want more Black movies, we got to go buy tickets to the Black movies, right? If we want more queer movies, we got to go buy tickets to the queer movies. It's just like that. So I ask that you either get a ticket if it's right for you, and if it's not, please just spread the word. Share it with someone who you want to see be there. So thank you for listening to my story about ROI. I hope it inspired you to take on those big projects, because we are somebody, right? We can solve these problems, and it's not going to be easy. Just because we sign up to do it doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it will be so rewarding. And I have to tell you, doing this podcast and in my work, I talk to very successful entrepreneurs all the time. And money does not actually make you happy. It creates a lot of resources, it creates a lot of options, it allows you to help so many people, but it doesn't in and of itself necessarily make you happy. What they always talk about at that level is they're asking themselves, what is my purpose? What am I here to do? How can I have a positive impact in my work? And so if there's no positive impact connected to the profit that you're making, it feels less exciting. It feels less fun, it feels less important, it feels less fulfilling. And so this is an example. First of all, everything we do at Hello 7 is about profit and purpose. We're all about our mission to close the wealth gap one entrepreneur at a time. And ROI is one of the main vehicles we're using to make that happen. So please support it and please share the word. And I can't wait to see you there. Thanks. That's our episode today. Bye, y'all.
Hey, do you enjoy money? I do. If you want to make more money, then you need to join We Should All Be Millionaires, the club. Go to hello7.co/club to see everything you get once you become a member. hello7.co/club. In the club, we teach you how to maximize your earning potential, how to make better financial and business decisions, how to set up systems so that you're building wealth over time. We keep you focused on your financial and business goals, and we do fun activities throughout the year to keep you motivated. During our last money-making challenge, our club members earned a grand total of $3,519,262.66. Okay? $3.5 million as a community. That's a lot of money, y'all. If you want to get in on this, go to hello7.co/club and become a member.